Call this March 24th, 2025 Carroll County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I'll ask Mr. Collins to lead us in invocation and pledge, please.
Father, thank you for this opportunity to be in this place to deal with the business of the county. We pray that you give us wisdom and guidance in all that's done tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Carroll County Board of Supervisors meeting. I do ask you, everybody, remain quiet and respectful. We'll have a public hearing in just a minute where you can speak on the advertised tax rate. That will be the only thing that we're speaking on in the public hearing tonight. Just remind you, there's no personal tax on supervisors. Address the board as a whole, and each speaker will be given 3 minutes. So with that, I'll start the public hearing at 6:01. And the first speaker I have is Tony Marshall.
I live in Fancy Gap, and my taxes went up 60%, and I haven't seen anything that warrants my taxes going up 60%. Anything. I haven't seen any progress. I haven't seen any jobs. I haven't seen anything that warrants that. And I see that y'all are up for a raise next year of $7,000 from 14 to 21. And I would expect a little bit better representation than that, because I feel like we're getting taxation without representation. That's exactly how I feel.
I'm sorry, who's up for a raise, sir?
It says on y'all's budget that in 2026, y'all are supposed to be up, said the Carroll Board of Supervisors was up for a raise from $14,000 to $21,000.
Well, we don't make $14,000 now, and that's the first I've heard of it.
Well, that's what it's on your website. You can look it up on your governmental website. That's where I looked it up at.
Okay.
Code of Virginia 58.1 3321. A. When any annual assessment, biannual assessment, or general reassessment of real property by a county, city, town would result in an increase of 1% or more in the total real property tax levied, such county, city, or town shall reduce its rate of levy for the forthcoming tax year, so as to cause such rate of levy to produce no more than 101% of the previous year's real property tax levies, unless subsection B is compiled with. B, the governing body of a county, city, or town may, after conducting a public hearing, which shall not be held at the same time as the annual budget hearing, increase the rate above the reduced rate required in subsection A if any such increase is deemed to be necessary by such governing body. I just can't see why our property taxes are going up 60%, 50%. One gentleman said 72%. Why? Can anybody tell us why? Simple question. Where's all the money going? Where's the money going from the county stickers and everything else? Where's the money going? That's what I want to know. I plan on doing a lot more research. I'm not going to lie. I've never really paid that much attention to local politics, but I plan on it now. Absolutely. Everything needs to be looked at and looked at hard, and if we're not getting represented, then people need to be replaced. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, sir. Okay, next I have a Brett. I'm not sure the last name. Frank, okay, sorry, thank you.
Hi, yes, I just got a question on the property tax and how y'all appraise everything. I've looked up 15 properties in my area that are joining me, and there's a variance from 9% to 69%. How do y'all come up with a fair rate if there's that much of a difference in all adjoining properties that are normally, they're all farmland? You know, how's it fair for that one person to pay that 69%, but the other one only gets billed 9%? I mean, how do y'all come up with those equations? And I've got a list of the properties right here that came off y'all's site for the 25 tax appraisals. You know, I don't mind paying taxes, but why can't it be fair across the board? Why does one person have to pay more than the other? That's my only question. Like I said, I don't know how to get an answer to that, but it just seems like it would be. If you're going to do something, you would be fair across the board. You wouldn't make one person pay more than the other if they're all in the same area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next I have Nancy Beasley.
Good evening. I got my appraisal and I have 3 properties. And one of my properties did not increase at all. The second one increased $1,000. But where my house and the lot it's on, the value increased $70,000, which was like a 49% increase. I see that you're planning on looking at 49 cents per 100, which now the present rate is 59 cents. That would make me, on one parcel where my house is, that would make me paying over $200 a year on that one. I can live with that, but I'd like to see it go lower. And another thing, on top of that, see, I pay town taxes because I live in town. And right now, the present rate is 21 cents per 100, and they haven't set their rate yet. They'll probably do that during their budget. But I would appreciate it if 49 cents, it could go lower. I could live with that. And said, I'm widow, I have just one income, and when I pay my taxes, I make monthly payments. And I've been doing this for years because that way when I get a tax bill, I'm not hit all at once. And you know what? The treasurer's office gladly takes my money every month. So anyway, I appreciate y'all trying to come up with a fair rate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beasley. Okay, next I have Aaron Haga.
Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm a little nervous. Same name's Aaron Haga. I'm a native of Carroll County. I grew up in Bruner Holler on the other side of the river. And I had a house built 3 years ago and planned to live there till Vona Gwing takes me out of it. That's a fact. I'm sure there's other people in here the same way. As it stands right now, even if the tax rate was reduced to 40 cents, my real estate taxes will increase 40%. I built my house 3 years ago. My land assessment, just the land, it's a 3-acre piece of land, increased 23%. Like I say, I ain't been there 3 years. And my house, and I got a metal building, it increased 69%. At those rates, I'm going to be paying close to $2,000 a year county taxes. And I'm retired. Like I said, I sold everything I had to retire back home. We were told the assessments were based on using assessment ratios. The ratio is a self-graded report card reflecting the accuracy of the assessments. That's a fair assumption, which is the sales price divided by the assessment. And terminology I know we used to use years ago, and I probably still use it, it's called SWAG, scientific wild guess. And that's what it seems to me it boils down to. The bullseye number would be 1. That's the property sold for what it is assessed at. On the sales report, the ratios range from 0.46, it's sold for more, up to 2.79 which means it's sold for less. How can we put faith in accuracies in county assessment with a range that wide? From what I gather, the assessment theories are based in metropolitan areas where everything is cookie cutter communities. Our county, it's all across the board. And now, here's some variables I've seen, but I see nothing in the assessment to reflect them. One is the sampling size. The sampling size was approximately 1.8%, less than 2%. And that's over 30,000 properties on the county. There's 565 total sales, consisting of a very broad range of properties, which includes residential and agriculture. One of the things that's not, I'm sorry, can I continue?
Yes, sir. I'll give you another minute.
Okay. One of the things is flippers, including ratio are properties that investment groups, local and out of state, buy lower cost homes in our community. They gut them and then totally remodel and upgrade them. Comparably, the increased value of those properties that are sold should not reflect on the neighborhood nor the neighbor on a one-to-one increased value on the assessed property. We've got out-of-area buyers and sellers. Out-of-area property buyers and sellers do not live here full-time and are affecting the local homeowner assessment values. I easily found properties where both the buyer and seller live out of state. Example, North Carolina and West Virginia, and Vermont and New Hampshire. These property owners do not support our local economy year-round, if at all. They do not contribute to the increased tax burden that citizens in Carroll County have to shoulder due to inflated property assessments. Large areas of Carroll County agriculture are now owned by out-of-state buyers. Do they contribute to our economy? The partial remedy I have for this is to factor in a percentage tax discount for landowners that have a Virginia mailing address and are registered to vote in Carroll County. I guess. Again, I'd say to qualify for a tax credit, you must have a local Virginia area mailing address on file and be registered to vote in Carroll County. I think that would be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Durbin, what Mr. Hagan said there, talking about something that we could do, we've looked into that and we cannot do that. Is that true? That you cannot bias based on?
That's right. It's equal taxation based on the ownership of property and the value of your property.
It's property, not who you are, where you're from, or where you live.
Right. If you're a North Carolina voter or a Vermont voter, and you live there full time and just own property, we can't tax them at a higher rate and give local residents a lower tax bill.
Right.
That's something Richmond won't allow us to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we've looked into.
Thank you. Next, I have Bob Amsler. That's fine. Are you Deanna? Okay.
I'm Deanna Ansler. And I guess our concern, one of our concerns is that the differences between, like the other people have said, the differences in rates between some people get taxed more, some people get taxed less. We've noticed a difference. Our tax went up 68%, and we've lived there like 20 years. So our house is beginning to do the wear and the tear of 20 hours of wear and tear. So we don't feel like it was actually looked at, that it was just an on-paper thing. They didn't actually look at our house and see what the condition of it was. They didn't see the 20 years of wear and tear about the vinyl siding. They didn't look at the windows. They didn't look at the decking. They didn't look at all the things that were going on. Today, for example, we had to have our well pump replaced. Our pump went out. Well, gosh, that was $1,800 right there. They didn't see when the ice storm happened and the huge limb crashed down on our outbuilding and crashed the roof, and our roof is crashed in on the outbuilding and the sides are buckling. It's total. Okay, that wasn't taken into consideration. So there's lots of things that weren't taken into consideration. The seals on the windows are leaking and that type of thing. So it wasn't a total, true valuation of what was happening with our property. So we feel like it wasn't valued correctly. I guess that was our concern, and that it wasn't a valuation that was fair across the board with property values, and that it wasn't assessed fairly for us in the condition of our property. So that was what we were concerned with. And I could go on and on and on, but I think the concerns that the other people had, we share their concerns too. So that was what I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could clarify one point regarding the earlier speaker's comment.
Yes, sir.
If you are a resident of Carroll County and you qualify under the county's adopted ordinances that provide exemptions for elderly, disabled veterans and spouses of deceased veterans.
Mhm.
So there is some tax relief there, and I believe it was just last year or the year before that the county increased the exemption levels that were available to folks. So that's just the one exception to that general rule that you're taxed based on the value of property you own, not where you live.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next, I have Trifina Horsley. Hello.
Good evening.
Afternoon.
Is that more proper?
Yeah.
Phew. Already a lot of folks have kind of covered several things. I know you all are not responsible for the outcome of this assessment individually, and you'll just have to bear with me because I wrote this on an impromptu moment right back there. The question I have is, why do the companies not do more research? For example, a property in Fancy Gap that's newly built versus my grandmother's home built in the early 1900s. Shouldn't things like that be taken into consideration, as far as these assessments go? I have heard all different perspectives. Some people say our rates are reasonable compared to the larger cities and areas they originated from. I do not want to sound ungrateful or pessimistic toward those individuals, but with all due respect, those individuals are either not from here or have chose to retire in our area after moving away and leaving those of us less financially stable to carry the financial responsibility of providing year-round support to this community. The assessors have not taken into account the inside conditions of all these homes that have not been updated or are in disrepair due to the impoverished state of the native residents. So I don't know that there's a whole lot, that's all I have written down because that's as far as I could get, but I don't know that there's a whole lot that you members of the board can do other than, the rate that you set. I would like to know if you have any idea when residents are supposed to hear back for their appeals that they filed, if you have any ETA on those results. Okay, so there were a lot of people, just so you are aware, there were a lot of people in this community that did not get to file an appeal, either because they didn't have the knowledge and the know-how, or because they just didn't understand how it had to work. So I think that should be definitely taken into consideration as you decide what rate you're going to set this at. Keep those folks in mind. As I said, this is an impoverished community. This is not a wealthy town. This is not a wealthy community. I know that you all have big responsibilities, and we do appreciate your efforts in what you attempt to do. But please be aware the people here can't afford big, fancy, city-like, improvements and things to that nature in their tax bills. And they don't need to have their houses assessed at rates of what a house in Roanoke would cost or what a house on Fancy Gap Mountain would cost. They need to have accurate appraisals and assessments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Swords, Trafina, I'm gonna answer you just a minute. So I had something I was gonna say anyway to everyone. I talked to the Commissioner of Revenue today, for a little while. I appealed my reassessment. I got a phone call today. It took that long. So they're almost done, but I understand what you're saying about the people that don't understand the appeal. So they're going to have a Board of Equalization set up. We had almost 3,000 people, I think, that's appealed. So the ones that are not satisfied with the appeal need to go to the Board of Equalization. That will be advertised. So Michael, when y'all see it, make sure you put it on Facebook. It'll be advertised in the paper. So that's your next time to appeal, the Board of Equalization. Now, this will probably, it's possible that it can extend, the first tax tickets may come out before your appeal's done, because if you have, I don't know what the number will be, but if 3,000 people have appealed and 1,500 are still not happy, then, they've got to go through 1,500 people, Board of Equalization. So it's going to take a while, but he wants to make sure that, and we want to make sure that everybody has ample opportunity to be heard, have their appeals looked at. Is the reassessment perfect? Absolutely not. So if you have issues with your, and that was what my appeal was, because the house I just bought was built in 1973, the same original windows, everything, and I want to make sure they took that in consideration. So when you meet with the Board of Reassessment, it's going to be advertised. You'll have plenty of time to do it. Now, if your appeal, let's say if you win your appeal and the first tax tickets have been mailed out for the first half of the tax, the commissioner said that you either get a credit for your second half tax, or you can get a check refund. So he's going to keep up with that, and that's where it'll be.
I would ask too that you please keep in mind there are a lot of people out of 3,000 property owners that have filed that appeal. There are probably, 10, 15, 20,000 more that, maybe didn't.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not sure how many property owners we have in Carroll County. I know there's
either.
more residents than property owners,
Right.
and there's about 30,000 residents.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but anyway, just please keep those things in mind.
Yeah. So that will be advertised. So that'll be their next appeal. So
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. All right, anyone else want to speak that didn't sign up? Sure.
This just goes to what she said.
If you'll come here first.
Oh.
Fill that out for me, please. Thank you, ma'am.
So real quick, this what goes back to what you just said. I appealed myself.
Ma'am, will you speak in the microphone so everybody?
I appealed my tax ticket,
Uh-huh.
and the assessor told me that the meeting was this Wednesday. I just happened to see it in the paper that it was today. And I called and asked what time the meeting was Wednesday, because the assessor told me it was Wednesday, the 26th. And the lady that I spoke to said there was no meeting on Wednesday, the 26th, that it was indeed today. So I don't know how much false information was given out that way either.
Okay.
So
But that could have been, is that from the reassessment, or is that where we're here tonight on a
we're
levy?
here tonight on a live feed.
For a levy?
Because they told me to come here and go in front of the board and speak.
The assessor
That's what
told
they
you,
said.
the
They said-
assessor told you that?
Yes, they say to come, do your due diligence, do your appeal, which I had done. He was returning my phone call, and they told me, come,
Okay.
make your voice heard.
The only reason I'm saying is because this is a tax levy, and then they shouldn't be telling them to come about, talking about a tax.
Right. The
Well,
board,
And we'll let
the
the lawyer.
board of supervisors can't take action on the tax value of any property owner's land.
Okay, yeah, but they're saying to come and speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if the community comes together, then maybe we will get a different outcome.
Ma'am, you're not alone. I've heard it from others here.
Oh, sorry.
I've heard it from others that they were
Yeah.
told Wednesday
Yeah.
was the meeting night, and I corrected them.
Yeah.
So somebody putting out bad information from, you say the assessor's office?
It was an assessor. It was not an assessor's office. It was it was my assessor.
Okay. Well,
Because we don't handle nothing on the assessment.
Yeah.
We're just about the tax levy
Yeah.
that we'll do it
But
based on.
But he was, when he called me, he's the one that told me to come to this meeting,
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Yeah.
the
I've heard it from
26th.
others.
Because I told folks that I work with it was the 26th, and I was like, well, wait, no, it's not.
You're not the only one.
So I don't know if that was just misinformation or, I don't know.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You'll just sign your name there for me. Write your name, please. If you want to, yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Angela Boyette, and I live in the Woodlawn area. Just so you guys back here will feel better, our property went up 144%. Yes, we did appeal. However, I want to say two things to the Board of Supervisors. One, the public advertisement for your meetings and what's going on has got to improve, because I know it was in the paper one time, 1 week before this meeting. Your website, your county website, it's very confusing. There should be a big announcement on that county website saying the public hearing is tonight. The only way you can find it is to go to your calendar, click on the Board of Supervisors meeting calendar, and you see that there's a public hearing. But that's not, the general public is not going to find that, and it took me a long time to find it, okay? I don't take the Carroll County News, so therefore, I saw it in the supermarket line. That's it. You go on the website for Carroll County News to look for it, you can't see it unless you buy a subscription. There has to be a better way to communicate. That's why there's limited people here. The other thing I would like to say is, I don't know how you came up with 49 cents. You must have some crystal ball, because how do you know you can reduce it 10 cents based on that reassessment? What is your county budget? What is your program for next year that you need X amount of dollars? And the thing that was published in the paper said, effective, everybody will have a 20% tax increase. Well, let's think about that. 20% times everything we have to buy and everything we have already budgeted for, and we're not getting a 20% raise. That's not going to help us very much, especially the retired people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Huh? Okay. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
I have one question about the reassessments and when they took place. Did they take place before the horrendous hurricane we had in September? Can anybody answer that? The amount of property damage that was incurred that we did not have, none of that was covered by homeowners insurance. That's my question. And also, I didn't see any advertisement. I do not subscribe to the newspaper. I'm sorry. There's very little news that I care to read. And I had to hear this through the grapevine. And I can see the limited number of people that are here. I think it's a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll close the public hearing at 6:30. Next on the agenda is opioid litigation. I'll let you do with that, Mike. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received a recommendation from Opioid Litigation Counsel recommending that the Board of Supervisors agree to drop certain pharmacy benefit manager defendants. This is like Express Scripts and similar pharmacy, they're called PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. They were added to the suit, I believe, just over the summer, but in weighing the impact that the PBMs have had in the litigation to localities like Carroll, the smaller localities, it appears that the cost of litigation will outweigh the upside of a recovery at this point. So the recommendation is to approve dropping these defendants. This does not prevent the county from, there will be other what are called bellwether localities that are going to continue to litigate this. And if a global settlement is reached, it does not prevent Carroll County from participating in that settlement agreement. Or if the bellwether localities prevail, it would put Carroll County in a position then to revive its suit if it's determined to be worthwhile. But right now, I think the council is concerned that for localities such as Carroll that are not very large cities, that the burden on staff in gathering documents, doing depositions, et cetera, a number of the steps that you have to take to litigate a case like this is not worth the upside. So they've asked for the board to authorize the dropping of the PBM defendants from the ongoing litigation that's the county's engaged in against the other opioid defendants. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. Otherwise, a simple motion to authorize litigation counsel to drop the PBM defendants would be in order.
How extensive is the list of PBM defendants?
Let's see. There are literally hundreds of pages of participating localities. There are hundreds of pages of plaintiffs. So by Carroll County dropping off, it's not going to, those suits are going to continue. And as far as the plaintiffs, or I'm sorry, as far as the defendants, I think I do have that.
So is it mostly mail order pharmacies like Express Scripts, or there are
It is.
no retail drugstores like CVS or anything?
Right. Those cases are not what's being addressed today. Express Scripts is the main example.
I'll make that motion to drop the PBM defendants.
Okay, have a motion, I have a second.
I second it.
Okay, start the vote with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's all I had on that topic.
Thank you, Mr. Durbin. Okay, next on the agenda is the budget work session. I know Mr. Martin and y'all been working hard on this, so I'm gonna let him present this.
It looks like they're pulling it up on the screens.
Looks like what?
All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started while they're working on it. What we have tonight, and I've handed out in front of you what's on the, what would have been on the presentation. Okay, here we go. So I've handed out one handout that was sent through email on Friday, which kind of dives into detail in some of the numbers of what we would be looking at different tax rates. Here on the screen, I've got different tax rates running from what would be revenue neutral at 40 cents down to 53. What each tax rate would generate in level of real estate tax increase for the county, and then to balance the budget at each tax rate, what would need to come out of savings to balance the current budget at the level it's at right now. Here's a chart, a little more breakdown. This is a little bit a table version of what you all received on Friday or Thursday. And what we have here is between 40 cents and 53 cents, what comes out of each category, ranging from general savings, amounts taken from CIP, and then school CIP as well. And the amount that would be generated per each rate for real estate tax rate. And then I've also included the capital improvement plan. What we have on here, going to the last page, focusing on that. We transferred, per the last meeting, we transferred $5.5 million from the CIP, which was generated from removing the pool and changing the EMS building from $6 million down to $1 million. So we transferred the $5.5 million to the general fund to be used as needed to balance the budget.
Question.
Yes.
You said $6 million for the MS building, didn't you mean $3 million?
It was on there for $6 million originally.
We had $3 million set aside.
It was $6 million on there. $3 million would have been out of the fund balance, and $3 million would have been, it was a line item for a debt issuance. The debt issuance was also removed as part of that. So at an overview, 40 cents, revenue neutral, that's, no real change in taxes generated, and it would be 3.8 million out of savings, down to 49, which was what was advertised, which would be 2,880,000 increase in real estate tax revenue for the county, and it would take 1,014,000 to balance the budget.
Justin, can you tell us what those numbers reflect since our last budget meeting as far as cost savings, increased revenue?
Sure. As far as increased revenue, I mean, there's really been no change at all from what we looked at. Included with what I sent out on Thursday, we did go in and cut out $200,000 out of the budget for expenditures, primarily reduced through tourism savings on some community events, brochures, economic development part-time line item that had been there, but we have not utilized that. And then a little bit of savings through farmers market capital line that they've had a little bit extra the past couple of years.
Can you tell us about a cigarette tax, what that would do?
So at the moment, the county does not, we did not participate in initiating the cigarette tax. It's not exact what we would get. Looking at some of the comparable localities that have joined that, would be Smith and Wythe County. Smith County has has 3 towns, I think, that are participating in that. So whenever the town's participating, they receive that revenue for those stores within that area. So Smith County's kind of on the low end because they have more towns and they've got more pulling from it. Geographically, it would be more similar to Carroll. Wythe would be the other one. However, Wythe has a significant number of truck stops. They do have a few less towns than Smith. So Wythe would be on the very, very upper high end that I don't think we're quite comparable to. So I think it would probably be around $200,000 is what we could estimate if we were to put in a cigarette tax. And that's not factored in these numbers presented.
This afternoon, you told me 250 to 325.
I sent a follow-up email after we had discussed that.
Yeah, my email's not working.
And going back and looking at it, what the localities received for calendar year 24, we would probably be in line with about 200.
Are Smith and Wythe the only counties around us that have a cigarette tax?
I'm not sure exact which other ones have it. I think we would probably fall around those as far as being comparable.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a request that each supervisor here tonight gets an opportunity to express before the public what they feel would be an appropriate tax rate and how they get to that, as opposed to a motion being made and then having to vote on it immediately?
I don't plan to have a motion on the tax rate tonight, but you sure will.
Oh, you're not going to have a tax rate motion?
That's in April.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll let everyone
All right.
to the floor.
The board can't pass the tax rate tonight.
Right.
We have to have the advertisement for the public hearing 7 days before the public hearing. Tonight's the public hearing, and it has to be held 7 days before the board could vote on it.
So you couldn't vote on it before next Monday?
Are you prepared for that? I'd like to.
Prepared for what?
That.
Oh, I know where I am.
discussion. Would now, or you want to talk by phone, or?
Well, there's no need to do it tonight if we're not going to set a rate.
Okay.
I would like to see a cigarette tax enacted in the county, because 200 is a little over half of a penny. And these people out here made very valid points today, in that we're a retirement community, and our real estate's being driven up by people who didn't grow up here. And we don't need to be buying our properties every year from the county with real estate tax. We have $8.5 million in money that's not allocated anywhere, and I personally would like to see some taken from that money to keep the tax rate as low as possible. And 49 cents is nowhere close to where I am, I can assure you.
And I do have a question for you, Justin. What is out there? I mean, we see that we could take money from savings and all, and I know we got a thing we can't go. We got to have so much money based on law. What is a number that we could use and then be back to where we borrow money to pay payroll, like 2017?
I'm going to just jump in here on that. That's a very difficult answer.
Right.
Because it's based on, we've talked about it considerably, and based on what you set the number at, will depend between if you can go without doing a revenue anticipation bond, you're somewhere, depending on where you set the rate at, between, I want to say 2 and 4 years.
Okay.
Whatever it goes below 52 cents will have to be addressed as we go down the road.
Right.
So
and that's what I thought about, you know, and me and Bill's on the budget committee that's been working on this, and that's one of the things that, you know, as a board member, you know, I'm like Mr. Early and the rest of you gentlemen. I want to go as low as we can, but I feel that in our discussions as a board, we cannot, you know, 42 cents where we got to start. We can't start at 40 cents. We have to start at 42 cents. And the reason I say that is because all of us voted 2 months ago to fully fund our EMS. And in this budget is a $640,000 increase for the EMS. So we all shoulder that to start with. And then as we move down through the savings and stuff, I mean, we can discuss and kick around. But my biggest concern is, like I said, if we go 42 cents, we have to use 3.2 million savings. I would just like board members to help us understand where that funding is going to come from in the future. You know, 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road.
May I?
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah.
My remarks from the previous meeting or one before that about the auditor's report and where we are have been proven to be accurate in that we need to be between 15 and 20%. We're at 22%.
Have you got a number for that?
Yeah, 2.2 million.
2.2 million.
Yeah. To go to 20%, which is the upper end of where the auditors would like to see us.
Okay.
So 2.2, you know, the 600 plus that we all voted on, I'm in agreement with that we do need to fund that. Plus we have another 1.6 from the schools that they're asking for.
Well, it's an additional 300 this year. It was 5, 8 and some change that was added to the required local effort and additional programming, meaning that this board didn't have very little control over it. So that was last year, in which we took money out of savings to pay for that. And then there was an additional approximately, I want to say 270 to 300 that was in this additional. So we got 1.9 in there that we have to do no matter what. It's not the school board, it's not the school system. It was the change in the way things were calculated through the state. And that approximately 1.9 won't go away. It's every year consecutive, and then every year, just to give you an example, on the schools, when the state approves raises for anyone that's not a county employee, it's a constitutional officer or school system, there's an additional cost to us. There's some match or increased benefits or something to go along with it. So those raises that the state give, they're what you consider an unfunded mandate. It's not that they don't deserve it. It's just the state makes these decisions and they push it down to locality to pay these bills. So this year and last year, you've got I'm just in the schools is approximately 1.9 a mandate.
Mr. Chairman, may I read an email that I got from a constituent who is not in my district? She's in, and I'm not going to name what district or who the supervisor is, but it goes along with what these folks said tonight. Would it be okay if I could read that?
Okay.
Just saw that the tax rate is lowered to 49 cents. Well, that's too much for me. My assessment on this field in my home went up 73.93% in 4 years. I don't know with whom they are comparing the value of my property, but it isn't Carroll County, surely. I know I have a big house, but to raise the value that much in 4 years is outrageous. I did complain to a supervisor, who is my supervisor, about my assessment, and of course he takes no responsibility. I was wrong about the Board of Supervisors hiring the assessors who are not local, and how would they know anything about this county? I even sent them an email, but no response. And I did send in an appeal via email to the commissioner's office. Here I am, a widow, trying to make it on my own, and they are taxing me out of existence. Some of this land has been in my family for probably 200 years, so it's not as if I'm going to sell it ever. It is a legacy for my kids and grandkids. My taxes would be doubled even at 49 cents. 6 acres that has no road access went up 33.33%. The rest of the forest went up 39.95%. No improvements to these areas at all. In fact, a lot of damage with downed trees from the hurricane and ice storms. I do not understand how my field here can be so much more valuable than my neighbors along this same road. How can they assess this field at $8,000 an acre when my cousin's properties only went up 30% and face this road as well? I don't get it. I would like to know what improvements they saw, if anyone came and looked, on this property that would raise my assessment by $378,600 on this house. And we don't even get any perks from our taxes on this road. No trash, no water, no sewer, etc. And I will also say that my district, Laurel Fork, gets very few, if any, services. No water, no sewer. A lot of people are being denied trash pickup now. We have no broadband, but it fortunately is on the way. So we in Laurel Fork pay the same taxes everybody else does, and we get a goose egg for it. So that's all I have to say.
Well, are you one of the tax rate you were telling us about?
What's that?
You were telling us about the tax rate that you want to do and how to get there.
Well, I said I would.
I guess my question. Oh yeah, what you're talking about, the 2.2 that we had over the thing.
Yeah.
I guess my question is we last year the board we took 1.6 million out of savings to balance last year's budget. What did we make back up of that we lost?
So we're still in the process now because it's in the fiscal year.
Realistic, it's going to be about $500,000.
I think it'll be about that. Yeah.
So we're 1.1.
Yeah, around
off that.
around 1.1.
Yeah. And you know, if we go, like I say, if we go the 3.2 million, and we do that out of savings, and then we do, you know, it's going to be the next year too, and the next year. You know, eventually, 3 years from now, you're looking at $9 million that's come out of savings to balance the budget. Because I mean, we all know that the schools, AEP bills and everything's going to go up. You know, and that's the one thing that I've tried to focus on is how are we going to make that up? You know.
Well, right here is a document I referred to a couple of meetings ago, and I continue to refer to.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, and that's what I meant by my question was,
well,
how much can we go?
Well, let me just say this. That ratio of 15 to 20% is the unassigned fund balance divided by expenses. And the auditors, you checked, 15 to 20% is where they like to see a county to be. Mm-hmm. We took 1.6 million out of savings last year, right, and we still ended up at 22%, which right, is higher than.
Yeah, and I follow what you're saying, but what I'm asking is, what's a number that we can afford to take out of that?
Well, can I just clarify one thing? That was the year we took the 1.6 out. That's the year we're in right now.
Yes.
So that's not.
We're not polished, but we know we're not going to make the 1.6 back up. And see, that's what scares me. If we go 3.2 next year and we don't make up $500,000, then we start losing $3 million a year.
Digging a bigger hole.
When does we have debt that's falling off here in the next 2 years?
The first year will be 2028.
Okay.
And it's 1.6 million?
1.3.
1.3 million. And then I had been doing some checking on that as well. Are we going to, in the next couple of years, get some different numbers from the school index?
So every 2 years we'll get updates on that. So this next year we'll get a CPI update on that number. And then again, VRS, they do the same thing. So we'll have new VRS numbers this time next year.
Because I'm hearing that possibly will take that.
I would
I
expect
mean, that's what
both
scares
those numbers to
me
increase.
based on.
From what I understand, it's 30% of values of property.
There's 4 factors specifically that come to mind. One of them is the property values, one is sales tax, and I can't remember the 2 others offhand.
So with increased property values, your composite index probably gonna go up again.
I would expect it. I wouldn't expect it to decrease.
Right.
One more comment, and Justin, you and I spoke today by phone, and I mentioned across the board cut of 2%, not including salaried employees or the school, and you said that was about 200,000.
Yeah, that's approximately 220.
So it sounds like each percent is 100,000. Why can't we do an across the board cut of 5% and save 500,000? I know you've already saved 200 through some specific directed cuts, but couldn't 5 cents out of a dollar? You don't think that the offices in this building could save that money? That'd be 500,000, 300,000 for cigarettes, 2.2 million. We're getting close to what we need. Mike, maybe you'd like to weigh in on that one.
The only issue is where you make my department, county administrator department, not doing salaries, 10%, absolutely. Not a big deal because of, I cannot buy paper, whatever it is. A larger department where you get into like your sheriff's department, where you're buying vehicles or you're doing, you're supporting larger departments, that's where it's going to hurt the most. So sheriff's department's, not count salary, a couple $1 million. So you pull 200,000 out of sheriff's department tomorrow. That's rough numbers, okay? EMS is the next one, okay? So you're running a $1 million, $1.5 million worth of payroll in it or something, I would think.
Yeah.
You got a $4 million budget and all of those emergency services, so you pull 350 out of that. We just put 600 in it, and they're, in order to operate at the level that we've enhanced it to, we put $1 million into it this year.
And right now is the first time since before COVID we've been fully staffed with
That's
ambulance.
correct. So most of the funding in this budget that you're looking at out of $3.9 million is $1 million in EMS, 1.9 out of schools, and then we lost about 200,000 because it's not really revenue neutral. Is not really 40 cents. It's 40.0 something. So you're at 3.9. I mean, you're at. I'm trying to do this in my head. 1.9 plus $1 million. That's 2.9. You're 3.1, 3.2. That's not counting. So you've got about 700,000 in there that is.
We took a $500,000 from the schools from CRP.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, really out of this budget, when you true everything up, there's, you know, if you want to take 500,000 out of the budget, you know, that's cutting it off close. That's saying next year, if we're in the red, not count out of what we're budgeted, it's very possible.
Well, I think there's some fat that can be trimmed. And, you know, I don't want to pick out departments and name them individually, but there are some that could trim a little bit of fat.
And so with that, there's, like I said, $500,000.
Yeah.
Like I say, we do that, but let's keep trimming. I mean, we got $3 more million to go.
Well, 2.2 from savings.
Okay, and then
300
what was that
300 for
number that
savings.
we can do before we would be broke from savings? Based on the,
What's the what?
what's the number that we have that we can take out of savings as far as there?
I mean, it's very
2.2
preliminary. I mean, as far as, you know, looking so far ahead. I mean, between 41 and 42 cents, we would not meet our fund balance policy in 2027 potentially. And that, I mean, this is
right.
This is beyond preliminary
yeah.
projections. At between 45 and 46 cents, it would be 2028 when we would not meet our policy.
Okay, 28.
So at 45 cents, we're going to pull out 2,294,430 a year out of savings.
Yes.
So you can probably sustain that with the 2.2 and the money from the pool and EMS. You can sustain that for about, what, 3 years?
I mean, that's really, really preliminary
Possibly,
projections
maybe, yeah.
based on 2.3% inflation factor, which is a little bit less than what they're projecting.
And what about the car? You know, I know the price of the cars and stuff's coming down. We're losing 6% there. What?
That would be if it stayed flat.
I was just saying that was another one of the costs where the personal property's dropping. I didn't have that included in the numbers I was talking about before.
That would be if it stayed flat.
But as far as Mount Rogers and the grants that we give, all that's still in there, correct?
All of those things are in there. Okay. Any of the ones that were what they call a jointly governed organization, so like Mount Rogers, Solid Waste Authority, which they're not necessarily one of those, but Rooftop, the airport, all of those we didn't touch.
25 grand a piece, pretty much. Yeah, we could cut them.
And that also doesn't take into consideration some of the stuff that, you know, like Mr. Watson said with the, you know, schools and the CPI, you know, it's going to change from year to year. We don't necessarily know what the state will make changes to that, especially next year. The current governor will propose his budget in December, and then he'll leave office, and who knows what the budget will look like after that. Our VRS rate will change. We were very, very fortunate this year to have a 0% increase in health insurance, which is unheard of, especially with how low our insurance increase has been over the past 3 years. In saying that, I'm going to come with bad news in the next few years, probably, that our insurance is going to increase. I serve on the jail board, and they got their insurance renewal back this year, and I think it was close to 20% increase there. You know, I don't think, hopefully that doesn't happen to us, but I mean, that's one of the things we don't know. Speaking about the Mount Rogers, there was a proposed bill this year, and I can't remember I believe it was a senator that proposed the bill as part of the budget amendment process, which would require localities to fund the 10%. Currently, right now,
weren't we the only one last year that did as far as the localities?
No, we never funded the 10%.
But we did fund those.
We did fund them.
Yeah. But Galax and Grayson, they stepped out, right?
Galax did not. With
did.
Did.
Very simple.
So what they did is they made a motion, and it got pretty far in the budget process, but it didn't make it to the final budget, which would require localities to do the 10%.
Sure.
So, you know, in a year that they pass that as legislation, that would be something that we would immediately have to have a significant increase in cost.
What do we pay them now?
Right now it's 150. I think their 10% was around between 380 and 410, somewhere in there. For Carroll.
How was Whiffle able to step aside from it?
I mean, there's only so many. I think that's where you see that one senator. It might have been Deeds, I think maybe, make that motion is they're wanting localities to.
And you know, bringing that up, Mr. Dixon, I would be cautious with that because, you know, they do a lot for our water sewer grants and different things and funding.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we received $100,000 from them last year on water. And then how much are they putting in the house building right now?
Well, the PDC is the one that is doing 100,000 or so. The CSB is the one that they had a difficulty time. Those two, With and Grayson, but they're the ones that provide all the services for seniors.
And I think they are. I think maybe an employer of around 150.
In Carroll.
In Carroll.
Yes, in Carroll County.
So.
Mr. Collins, how are you? I mean, you got a couple of community centers down your way. I mean, how are you with the funding this year that we've been trying to do?
With cutting them out, you mean? I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I mean,
vital to our community.
Yeah. Just a question, Justin, has there been any projections on what's coming to Exit 19, what it's going to do to add tax base?
Not within the next, I don't think it would be in effect for this year, based on when those assessments and everything goes out. It would be more long-term that we would have to take a look at that. But those are, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's split across the locality.
3 localities.
Yeah. So, just depends. That the funding that is received through that will go through Brasida, and then it's split 3 ways, and then that board would determine because there's another so many acres that needs to be developed. And again, I mean, positive like Justin said, they won't start growing until this time next year.
Just based on my numbers, just quickly as we've been working through this, are they going to be good for $2 million? No. Okay. All right.
Any more board members have anything?
I do have it. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as far as Mount Rogers, you know, I sit on the board there, and this last meeting, Thursday night, we went over a lot of stuff, and you know, they're anticipating actually a budget shortfall in, you know, on the federal side. So you know, they do a lot for our citizens, seniors, the links, you know, bus transit, all that stuff. So I think, you know, my preference is we continue to fund them.
Yeah, I mean, they have 2 days a week. They have meals at the senior citizen building for our elderly.
And then they lost a lot with some of the COVID stuff. You know, they lost some funding there, so it's kind of phased out. So
one thing we can keep in mind too is Twinkie's going to go ahead and do the fire billing now, which may help the budget a little bit, and not this year, but next year. Is that correct?
And we did include that in revenue.
So that's already included.
Another thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that, you know, the costs are going to increase every year. I mean, AEP is going to go up. Everything's going to go up. Cost of living goes up. There's 2 ways to get that cost. That's to go back to our taxpayers every year and raise their taxes, or to get new tax base into our county to get the tax base that way. I think we've got to focus more of our time and energy on getting that new tax base in. Because if we don't, we're going to be sitting here for the next 20 years figuring out how we're going to, because it's not going to quit rising. The cost is not going to quit rising.
I agree with you. And that's one thing that I'm just trying to sort through all this, because I come onto a board when they had to borrow money and pay the interest for a loan. And then I would say that the biggest thing that helped the county get in the financial situation that we all see is COVID. You know, the money, the dollars from that. You know, it helped the schools with their projects and stuff. And just trying to be cautiously optimistic, because my job as a representative is to be a good steward of the taxpayer dollar.
Well, there is one thing that's not going up, and that's the income that these people on fixed incomes, their income's not going up.
Yeah. Fixed income, man.
And I'm one of them. I'm on a fixed income.
Yeah. Yeah. We just got a lot of work to do over the next couple of weeks, guys. Try to figure this out.
Anything else?
One more comment, and it's a bit of a slam at the assessors. Now, they've called me 2 or 3 times, and it seems like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's calling, because they call about the same thing over and over again. And you just got called today or yesterday?
Today.
They didn't leave a note on my door that they'd been there. I have a ring camera. I saw that they were there for perhaps 2 minutes. And my property reassessment went up 63%. So I agree with y'all. I don't think they did an adequate job. I bet you there's some properties they didn't even go by. And I don't think that's right. There's only a couple of companies I know that do that, but we did it in-house for years here. And I think maybe we should look at going back to that process, because these people, I don't know where they think they are, but they're not in Carroll County.
Yeah, I agree.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one thing that, being on the budget committee, that we realized that is that even if there was no assessment, and the tax rate was 59, there's still going to be a shortfall of, what was it?
We'd have to go to 73 cents.
We'd have to go to 73 cents to make it work. So that's our challenge. That's what we've got to figure out, is how to come up with that. So I know we're always talking about the assessment, and that plays into it with the differences in values and stuff. But I think that we just need to realize that it would still have had to have an increase, whether if there's an assessment or not, to make up for the shortfall that we're at.
Yeah, because we asked Mr. Watson and Justin to come up with a number that we just not even have the assessment, and go with the tax. And then when we got to figuring that, it was in the 70s, and be raising tax like 14 cents, I think, based on the school, the EMS, the personal property as far as vehicle tax that we're going to lose and stuff, and then the AP, the bills, as far as that goes. But I think that the budget committee needs to meet again, and then I think me and Bill need to try to set up a meeting with each board member and kick it around, Me and Bill can meet one more time, and then maybe do that, and see,
Well, I think we need to look at spending some money out of savings.
Oh, yeah.
We've got more money in there than should be, and that's money that these folks worked hard to earn, pass on to us, and, that's the purpose behind it.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So Justin, I have a question. If, as it sits right now, we talked about the 22% being where we were at on our fund balance, and was that prior to the $5.5 million being put back into there, or would it be more?
It would be more.
It'd be more.
Yeah. So that was prior.
So we may be 25%, 26, or would we be that high?
I mean, the total we would have right now would be $7,300,000.
Yeah.
And that would put us a few hundred above our fund balance policy that we currently have right now. That includes the 5.5 transfer that was done as part of the last meeting.
And I want y'all to consider this budget does not have the money that there's no debt for a fire truck. There's no, as we go down the road, if we go through the process and spend the savings that we have, future projects would have to be debt funded.
Ambulances, fire trucks, whole 9 yards.
We might be able to get the
We could do the
ambulance in there
ambulances,
through the CIP. But we don't have enough money in the CIP to do a fire truck, and we'd had to cut down on other things. And we use our CIP mostly for maintenance, things that were not paid for in the past. So.
Just to clarify, Mr. Marshall had a point that everybody needs to hear.
Yes.
Can you clarify what it is that the supervisors make in Carroll County, and is there something on the website or in that budget that says I'm not aware of a raise that's been given in the last 10 years to the Board of Supervisors.
So since I've been on the board, since I've been on working for the county, the salary for the board has stayed the same. I did a Google search, and it looks like it's Carroll County, Maryland, that did that increase. What's over the past few years and included in the next year's budget is the exact same salary for the board.
Which is a number a year that we make.
I don't remember exactly what it is offhand, but the entire total budget number is 36,000.
36,000 for the entire board.
For the entire board.
For all of
Divided by 6, that's about 6,000.
6,000.
Yeah.
6,000.
About right.
That's it.
Slightly more for the chair and vice chair.
5,500.
Yeah. $5,500.
And no raises this year.
It's a good gig if you can get it. So y'all go ahead and run.
There's no. Yeah, he said it was possibly Carroll County, Maryland.
Yeah.
I wrote down Mr. Marshall's number because I wanted to talk to him, just so we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. See, we done away with them as well. We done away with the county stickers as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still collect the tax.
Yeah. 25. The 25. Yeah. Right. Right. And that was, we went through a thing that we reduced the personal property tax when COVID numbers got real high. Cars got real high. So we offset it at that point to try to help. Yeah.
All right, that's enough. Anything else?
No.
Mr. Martin? Okay. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Start the vote, Mr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And I vote yes.